Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up my Bloodwood tree. I've had this tree for a year now. It was a gift from Scott Winnard of Let's Do Bonsai in the UK. When we went to the US National Show, we also visited Tropical Expressions in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and he bought me this tree as a gift and that olive tree over there. So when I brought this tree into the plant room, about maybe 3 weeks ago, it totally defoliated. And the reason I brought it into the plant room is they don't like the cold weather. I try and keep it above 15 degrees Celsius. So when I brought it inside, it totally defoliated very quickly. And now all the new leaves are starting to grow in again. So I want to prune it up today to get the tree a little more compact, so all that new growth isn't at the tips of the branches. It's closer to the trunk line. Beside the Bloodwood tree, I have this hibiscus that Zen gave me, and it has its first flower, and it's a beautiful red color. I'll show you a close-up of the flower. Even though this is a small little tree, it has the most beautiful flower on it. Look at that. Yeah, just beautiful. There's a few other flower buds on the tree. There's one right here. And maybe, oh, and another one down here. Yeah, so there'll be a couple more flowers coming. Here is a look at the Bloodwood tree. So you can see it has a very natural style to it. It's very flowing. I'm starting to get quite a nice canopy on the top. And when it fully leaves out, it'll really fill in, quite dense. So you can see there's a lot of shoots that are just getting really long. So I need to prune those back to get some sub-branching and increase the density of the branches on the tree. This one's really, really long. So that's what I'll be doing today, is just basically pruning all the new shoots back. On these Bloodwood trees, at the base of each of these thorns, which are the internodes of the tree, there's a dormant bud. So as long as you have a thorn, on these Bloodwood trees, there's a dormant bud at the base of each of these thorns along the branch. So you can use the thorns as your guide for directional pruning. So on this branch, if I want the branch to grow downwards, I would prune back just ahead of this thorn, and the new branch would come in at the base of the thorn and grow downwards. So they're quite an easy tree to do directional pruning on, even when they have no leaves. I'll start by pruning this branch. It's a really long, whippy branch. So I want to, make all my branches flow. So in this case, I wouldn't want to prune to a downward facing needle, because it would create a funny kind of structure here. So I have one pointing up here, which would be a much better point to prune to. If I prune to that one, I would only get one new shoot coming up here and probably no subdividing. So up higher, I have a thorn coming to the front and one to the back. So I could prune at least to there, so I'll show you that. That's pruned off. And then I've got to determine, is that good? I think it is. There's a stub here I can prune off from last time. And I always leave a little bit of a stub when I'm pruning these trees, just to allow for dieback. So that's got that branch tip pruned up. If I get a shoot coming up here, maybe I will prune off this part eventually and grow it more upright into the canopy here. But I think that's a good point to prune it. I've got lots of choices for the future there. I'll take off a stub here. This branch, I've got two branches growing from one spot here. There's a kind of a thick back one and one coming out the front. So I think in this case I'm going to keep the one out the front and prune off this back one. Again, leaving a bit of a stub, and I'll clean that up the next time I prune the tree. Here I've got a very long whippy branch, and it doesn't flow very well. You can see the branch comes up here, and then this branch goes 90 degrees to it. So I think in this case I would want to prune to an upwards facing needle keeping it quite short, so I'm going to prune it off to here. I've got a whippy branch here. I'm going to prune to this needle that faces a good direction. Right here. Just taking the tip off. This branch here, it comes out. There's one pointing downwards, which is quite nice. One to the back, one to the front here. If I prune out here, it's getting a little long, so I'm going to go back to this downward facing bud. I could go back even further, but I think that's good. This one I'll also prune to a downward facing bud. There's a dead stub on the top here I can prune away. And I think yeah, there's not much growth on this branch here. I have a bud at the back here, but that's not very good. So I think I'll just have to leave that for now and see what happens in the future. I could I've got like these two branches are kind of growing very close together, and they're kind of, this one's growing over top of the back one. I could prune it away totally. Tough decision. If something pops out here, it would be good, but maybe I better just leave it for now and see what happens in the future. There's a long one out the back here. I'll prune to right here. There's a long one up top here. I'll prune back to here. There's a long one here. Right back to here. This one. Take back to here. Dead tip on this branch, I can just prune back. There's a back one here. I'll put it to here. And this one. Back to there. This one. To there. And I may prune some of these. I'm going to step back after I've done this pruning of the new shoots and have a look at the overall styling of the tree. There's a tip I can take off here. I've got a lower branch down here that I think I will prune it back to here. Like that. So I think that's got all the long kind of whippy shoots pruned back. Maybe this one. There. So let's step back and have a look at the styling of the tree. I'm having an overall look at the tree now. And I do notice here there's a branch that kind of cuts back towards the center of the tree. I'm going to remove that. It doesn't flow very nicely. So that's gone. That helps. I think this branch is too long. I'm going to have to prune it right back to here. I think this one, I am going to prune back to that upward facing bud. I think it's better for it to grow more vertical and keep it a little more compact. There's a branch here that it's kind of radial here, and then this part comes straight out the front, which is, you know, a bit of an eye poker branch. So I'm going to prune it back to a shoot that faces this direction. So here goes the tip off that branch. Just so it doesn't like cross a trunk line and it's not pointing straight in your face. So it'll grow off to the side a little more now. There's a branch here going straight down off of this branch. It's not hurting for now. It's kind of an unusual feature, and I'm going to leave it on. It's something that if it begins to bug me, I can always prune it off in the future, but I think for now it looks okay. There's a branch back here that's growing into this branch. It's pointing straight at it. So I'm seeing if there's a bud out the back somewhere where I could prune it back to, and there is. So I'm going to take the tip off that branch, redirecting it a little more out the back of the tree. This branch here is also poking straight out the front of the tree, so I will take at least the tip off, kind of redirecting it a bit. There is a shoot going in on the bottom, which is actually nicer. And it's quite straight, that branch, so I think in this case I'm going to take the whole tip off that branch. And I've got some new shoots that are growing in, so I think it'll make that branch a little more interesting looking for the future. I'm just looking for anything else that's kind of stands out as not looking very natural or flowing. I do have this lower branch which is quite straight. I could take it back a bit, and I think I will, to there. My main division of the tree is here, dividing into these trunks. And these are just little branches, and you see that a lot on trees in nature. The major division's up here, but they get little weed kind of branches at the bottom. Kind of adds to the natural look of the tree. I think that's going to do it. I don't see anything else that really stands out as being, nothing that really needs correcting too much. Maybe this branch here is getting a little long. It's kind of got quite a straight section there. There's a stub here I can remove. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a strange structure. Except for this upper part, it's fairly flowing. And this upper part's kind of growing back across the center of the tree. It might be a good thing to take that tip off there. I think I will. So I'm going to take this top off here. Like that. It's still not very flowing, that branch, but it's better. It looks better from the front view too. I could reduce these back further. I think I'll take this one back to here. That's about as far as I can take it. So I may get, as this fills out with leaves, I may get a lot of new shoots popping in that I can, some choices for the future. I don't want to prune the branches too far back, or they could die off instead of growing. Okay, I think that's it. I think I've corrected most of the biggest problems on the tree. I think it's looking good. I'll let it fill out, gain vigor, grow over the winter, and tackle the pruning again in the future. It's really windy outside today. The weather's changing from the warm, humid air we have now to cooler air. And there's going to be there's a high chance of a thunderstorm this afternoon. So here's what I took off today. There's the tree. And here's what I took off. So, you know, a fair amount. Nothing too major. Yeah, I really like this tree. It looks very natural. It looks just like any tree you would see growing. Yeah. So on this tree I did some pretty major root work. I took a real risk with it. These do grow from cuttings quite easily, so any tree that grows from cuttings, you can usually do a fair amount of root work on it and the tree will survive. So I'm hoping I've got the start of a radial root system on this tree. It had really knotted roots when I got it, so that had to be sorted out, and hopefully, I'll get a nice flared root base at the bottom of the trunk there. And this is in a pot that Sophie made, and it's starting to get some patina on the pot. I really like it. It's a cool pot. I'll put all today's clippings on the compost heap so no one can step on the thorns. And while we're outside, we'll get an update to the larch fall colors. Here's a look at the larch trees. So this back tree has the really kind of dark straw colors. The front one's getting the brilliant yellows. These are kind of in between, looking really nice. This one is starting to lose its needles. Yeah, there's quite a variety of colors in the forest, but oh, it looks so nice. Yeah, it's a nice time of the year for the larches. And the kitties. You're not supposed to be on the benches. Off you go. Come on. My rough bark Japanese maple still has leaves on it, and they're really nice, brilliant fall colors on it. This is the Arakawa rough bark Japanese maple. Doing well. A lot of my eastern white cedars have already got their winter colors. They've gone from a bright green to kind of a dull olive color. My Sarissa is still out, enjoying the warm weather while it lasts. The kitty's still out, enjoying the warm weather while it lasts, eh, kitty? Yeah. You're such a suck. Here's an update to the pawpaw trees. So they did quite well over the summer. I kind of kept them in a more shady spot. They can't really take full sun until they get a bit more mature. So they haven't grown like really vigorously like a maple, but they grew well. They thickened up. They're ready for another winter. And they get protected in the glass greenhouse in the winter. They can't take, the really cold winters here. My elm tree has lost all its leaves, and it's full of ladybugs crawling around on it. See that? All over the branches. So it thickened up really nicely this year. The base of this tree always had inverse taper. When it was in the ground in the front garden, this was buried under the soil, all this part. And it was skinnier than the trunk. But now you can see it's thickened up, it's starting to crack the bark. And it looks quite good. The root base is looking good on it. The trunk's getting taper. The branch structure's getting better every year. So I'll be pruning this up before springtime. Just kind of, controlling the shape a bit. Nothing, I don't think too drastic on it, and we'll let it grow for another year then. My big European buckthorn here, it's pretty well lost all its leaves. I think it's got 2 leaves on it still. So my goal, I want to remove this branch here, and I'm going to break it off like I did with these ones, so it gets a natural look. So what I'm waiting for is the pot to freeze over, so this will be solid, and then I'll just grab this branch either with pliers or something and break it. And that's what I did up here. I think I got a big pair of pliers and just pulled on it, and it just snapped off. So that should create a nice natural looking break there. So I don't want this branch, it's crossing the front line. This is the front of the tree I picked. I think it's the nicest front. And I don't want this branch growing across the trunk line. It's the last day of October today, and I still have the greenhouse here full of tropical trees. And they're still growing. If you look at my Ficus microcarpa here, there's all this new growth on it. It's doing really, really well. It's developing into a nice tree. I think this is the one that I'm going to put in that new pot I bought, that old Chinese pot. Yeah, everything is still growing out here in the greenhouse. So it's kind of nice, you know, extending the growing season by another month at least. Look at the Schefflera here, the shoots coming on that. Yeah, it's always nice to squeeze out an extra month of growing from your tropical trees if you can. In the plant room here, it is very warm. It is 27 degrees Celsius today. And I have some new trees. Michael from the KW Club germinated some Queensland bottle trees. So there's a look at the seedlings growing. And he gave me some extra seeds in case these don't make it. I also have some jacaranda seedlings here that are growing. And there's my limeberries. My bluebell tree from Johnny is just growing like crazy. I had a lot of flowers on my hibiscus. The bottom branch flowered. There's flowers on the top here. The one over here had 2 yellow flowers, but that was yesterday. Today they're shriveling up and falling off. Yeah, so this is kind of the warm room at the moment. The baobabs are in the corner back here. They've pretty well lost all their leaves now, so I'm just letting them dry out for the winter. And then in spring, when the buds start turning green, I'll start watering them once again. So they'll stay dry the whole winter. Yeah, the powder puff tree down here is growing with super vigor. It's getting huge. I'll have to prune that back again. The cashews down here are doing really well. The jackfruit's growing. My kapok or kapok are doing really well. My silk floss tree's doing well here. And I've got my rubber trees. Of course they're doing well. They love it in here. Here comes Jones's mother. This is the mama cat. And I've named her Joan. So we have Joan is the mom. Jones is the one I've kept. And my son has his name Joe. So we've got Joan, Joe, and Jones. Very, very confusing. But she's very friendly. Hey, you're a very friendly cat, just like your son. I pruned my bloodwood tree back, making it a bit more compact. I sorted out a bit of the structure on it. And once it fills out with leaves, I'll show you an update in a future video. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.